Right. I believe we are now live. And if that's the case, I want to start with first welcoming everybody to this lunch webinar. I hope that you all have your focus, as they say in Flanders, and ready to dive deep into this webinar. So, theme of today is about predictive AI in times where getting buying intent is more crucial than ever. Because today, you all know finding new customers can feel like guessing, right? Too many accounts, too little time, and often we are either too early, too late, or too generic in our outreach. At the same time, AI is now everywhere, right? But the real question is still how do we use it to spot buying intent and act on it in a way that actually works in the real world? So today's session is all about that, how to identify buying intent and buying readiness and how to combine smart signals with strong sales fundamentals so your team can focus on the right account with the right message at the right moment. Now, I'm Dylan. I'll be moderating this session for today, but of course, I'm not the expert. I'm joined here by two experts who are approaching this from complementary angles. We have first Jean-Philippe, JP, for the friends, founder of AxonJay. JP comes from the tech perspective, so capturing and combining signals from across the web to create a prioritized view on who to focus on and why now. That is his specialty, his expertise, and he'll be talking about that. Second, we also have Pascal Persyn, expert in commercial excellence. And Pascal has influenced thousands and thousands of customer-facing professionals. And one of his core principles is simple. In every touch point, you should be assessing where the customer is in their buying journey. And so that's what he will bring today on the table. So the goal for today is practical. Understand what predictive AI really means, what sales fundamentals need to be in place, and how to turn signals into better conversations and more pipeline. All right. I want to dive in. And with this first question it's more for JP. So JP, I mentioned predictive AI and AI being everywhere. Um, what is it actually that we need to understand about AI in today's day and age?
Thank you for this introduction, Dylan. Yes, AI is like a very broad landscape. Everybody's claiming to do AI, so I can only already tell you that a lot of AI is not really AI, and some of them are very specific. So as we have, like we have all different. We have generative AI, we have predictive AI, we have assistive AI, we have conversational AI, we have agentic AI. So we have like different types of AI that are running everywhere and having their advantages. The thing is that everybody, all companies are playing with that. They're not really using that for have real business truly benefits and revenue increases and etc. and margin increases. So there are lots of playing with it. But we're coming to an end of that where we can combine all those technologies to create, as we call it, hybrid AI. And hybrid AI is the next wave of AI, will help you truly to generate that revenue, to generate that margin, to generate or predict that risk or do the things that you want to do as a business owner, as a company, etc. So I think that's the next wave that we're getting to. And that's exactly the topic we want to talk about today, I guess.
And so can you bring us a bit more into how you are taking this hybrid AI in the context of AxonJay or in the context of how sales team should also
Yeah.
be able to leverage it today?
Yes. So the big thing is about AI is that it can help you as a business owner or business decision taker to be a superhuman. We're not saying it's going to replace everything you're doing, but it's going to make you more powerful. So that means that you can work in real time and you can focus on the more human things. Because, for instance, sales will always be a human thing at the end. So you make a deal with the person where the energy fits okay, where you feel comfortable with, where you share same values as a business, as a person, etc. But the machine will predict for you or will digest for you which companies will be business-wise always a good decision to do business with because of a cocktail of criterias, of signals, etc. So we're heading towards that, and the machine can do that for the whole market, can do that in real time, where with our brains, we're not good at that. We're built for more human contact and more making deals like that, not in analyzing petabytes of data. Machines are good for that. So we need to work together. So that's basically the red line.
So it's about not looking for a needle in a haystack, but just having a hyper-focused approach thanks to the fact that we can now
Yeah.
like have this industrialized in some way, the search for buying readiness.
Yes, exactly. So basically, what we're predicting and what we're doing with our AI is telling when a company is ready to buy your product or your service, because today it might be ready and tomorrow it might not be ready anymore. You're too late, too early, etc. And if you have to analyze this manually, it's going to take you forever and you're always too late. Our brain is not made for that. So with the help of machines, you can swoop that market, and you can do that for thousands and thousands of companies. And every day you can focus on what you're good at, is that contact. But you want to do that it has the most impact and the most valuable for you. So, and that's what a machine can help you with.
Gotcha. I also want you to dive in, Pascal, because for you, I know that, I mean, as I mentioned in the introduction, like, assessing where someone is on their buying journey is like super crucial. So I'm pretty sure that you also have a strong opinion on what this could mean, like the power of technology, but also maybe more in general. So my first question to you is, if you think of buying intent, what is the thing that really comes to mind? Like, this is what buying intent is, and also what do most teams get wrong about it?
When we're talking about Dylan, and welcome to the audience as well from my end. When we're talking about buying intent, buying readiness, there's a lot that has been said and done about that. It all starts with marketing automation, that with scoring models starts to say that they can predict buying intent or buying readiness, which of course we only need to look to ourselves as consumers. You just bought a bike, and suddenly the days and weeks afterwards, you're getting swamped with advertising of bikes, right? And you just bought one. So that's where, the whole thing has always been wrong, because it's not because you're attracted to a certain topic, to certain content, that you have buying readiness. It gives you your engagement to some extent with the brand, and it gives you the engagement you have with the content that you're clicking on. This is not predictive saying that you're interested in buying something. Is you just want to know more about the topic. So the whole idea that in traditional marketing you can predict buying intent, is the worst scam from using algorithms that you can think about. Okay, so that hasn't been helpful at all. And then we shouldn't be surprised that then sales is saying that the leads coming from marketing don't serve them. Okay, and so I believe that AI is now bringing us in the age where you can do that, because you are no longer predicting based on what someone is doing on your website or with your content, but that you can scan the context of where people in an organization are talking about, are working about, things that are happening in their context and in their environment. And then by connecting the dots, you can predict, if you have as a company, you understand what real value is you bring for your customers, you can map that context and then build an algorithm and use platforms like AxonJay is doing, allowing then to predict to some extent buying intent. And it's of course not the buying intent of where is someone in his customer journey, but at least it is giving you a more predictive suggestion on where someone of that there's a lot going on that should have something to do with the product or service that you have to offer. And that's, I believe, where the real breakthrough of ROI for technology comes in AI, as JR just said himself. Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, thank you, Pascal, for this. And the thing is also, it's a moving target. So the world is going forward every minute we're talking. So how on earth can you build that on data from a year old where it's moving all the time? And by the way, you are moving all the time as well.
Yeah.
Today you might be able to, oh, I want to do business with that type of customer, but tomorrow that might change.
Yeah.
And this is just this volatility that is so hard to do. So, and this is where AI, and for sure hybrid AI, is kicking in today. That's the big differentiator than 2 years ago. This didn't exist. And that is where what Pascal was saying is where we can really, become a superhuman and use that technology to focus on what I said, what you're good at, and not being a machine. So and that's a big differentiator compared to 2 years ago, for instance.
Yeah, true. Because we've been talking about the lead generation of creating MQLs for so long, okay, and for sure where we know by 10 years already and a bit more that we see that every year every research that is done about that subject is showing that buying groups and people influencing the amount of people influencing decisions is increasing, right? We are in mid-sized companies, we're already for B2B decisions, we're almost between 5 and 12 people involved for every decision. So the whole concept of an MQL, I have a lead, I need a sales guy to track that person, doesn't make sense because he's just 1 out of 12. And it's not because the buying intent then, even if the buying intent would be ready for that person, that isn't saying anything about that company having budget or willingness to release budget. So that's where indeed what AxonJay is doing is looking at the context in its entirety and focusing on companies and people in the company and what they are talking about and doing on the internet live, instead of just focusing on what one person is doing, is also what I say is enabling the whole movement from the MQL age into account-based marketing. But again, account-based marketing has been existing for quite a while. But again, was a more theoretical move because that AI was needed in order to close that gap. And what are we now saying? And that comes back to indeed not only what I'm fond about and convinced about, but what research Dylan is showing us. If you look into the science of decision making and neurology, it's there's a certain process we're going through. And if you put that decision-making process of multiple individuals together, you get fuzzy logic. And it is, what do we do with that fuzzy logic? And that's where we are, where I nowadays no longer talk about ABM, but about ABX. It's the experience you're creating by also the experience they're having with each touch point with your company, having hands-on experience with your product. So we're coming into a context that the technology like AxonJay has built is really making the big change in how we can improve effectiveness.
Clear. I have immediately like two things I want to jump on. Like, what are the sales fundamentals necessary? Because just like the CRM, if you don't have proper processes, nobody's going to use the CRM the proper way. So I'm guessing like this is the same stuff with AI. And the second part of the question, but it's like a second block of discussion, will be about how do we notice this in practice? How is all this AI, how do you operationalize this to the sales team? So maybe starting with this first one, like what are the sales fundamentals necessary in order to have AI being leveraged the right way?
Look, the research on performance, which is confirmed with what we measure since 2014 with our customers, is showing that the big change in revenue performance, if you want, is moving away from being focused on productivity and is the move to knowledge. Okay, and if you take that move, it's no longer about automation, what long has been, because look to CRM, that's been around for so long, and it came out of Salesforce automation. Okay, so it's all about automating stuff. Whereas the complexity is so high that no single person can handle everything. So we move to team selling. But if we move to team selling, we're saying we're increasing the cost of sales. And so managing the cost of sales whilst increasing the core selling time so that our salespeople are no longer spending half of their time on administration and customer support, but are actually having valid touch points, and in every touch point add value for the recipient. I think that is the big challenge we have if we want not only to keep our cost of sales down, but also having a higher productivity and higher conversion rates.
Agreed, totally agreed. I think that's a very valid point because we see that today. I just give you an example. My LinkedIn mailbox, a year ago, I received 5 messages a day. Today, I receive more than 100 a day. This is because of this automation. And we call it spraying and then praying something falls out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is the automation that is going on, and with AI, it's just accelerating. Is that a good evolution? Well, I don't think so.
No.
But people think it solves a lot of problems because like I'm doing a lot of outreach. But it's not about how many outreach you're doing. It's about the timing. It's about the message. There's a lot of variables that are going into that. And that's exactly when you split up AI and you say, okay, I only want conversational AI, or I only want predictive AI, I only want that. You're going into this spraying and praying scenario. And and that's gonna, like, I'm not looking at my LinkedIn inbox anymore, which is a shame because there might be between those 2 or 3 messages that are really valid for me that I would like to have, but I'm not looking because it's a nightmare. And that's the thing. So, and as a human, you can't follow that up. So you need to be there at the right moment with the right message, etc., etc. And that's the holy grail, we think. So yeah.
Yeah, I can also imagine that indeed, if you have a good conviction that this prospect is someone that I need to reach out to, you can also go and put everything out there. Your cost of sales can be a little bit higher because your predictability to actually convert it in some way might be higher. So what I hear there is mapping some sort of situation. If the prospect is showing that type of signals, then maybe I can go out and do that. Is that some sort of a sales fundamental that we need to have? I know that you, Pascal, you often talk about it's not your ICP what you should be focusing on, but it's more your PMC. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that.
Well, we shouldn't dive too much into that, but it's true. If the AI that you're applying is mainly using your own data, if it's transactional data out of your ERP, I'm fine with that. Okay. If it is, we're gonna leverage which is in CRM, I have a big issue because as we say in blunt English, crap in is crap out. Okay. And in CRM, how much information is up to date? Even how many fields are filled in where people have the same definition on what drop-down box they're clicking. Okay, so and then you put AI on it, and then should that data be then predictive for good outcomes? I don't think so. So there are a couple of things. Of course, the low-hanging fruit for AI today is very simple. Is cutting away some administration for the guys, right? It's like updating contact information. Why the heck are we doing that? Why aren't we scanning the inbox of someone and taking out relevant information and feeding that and updating CRM? The customer, the account is still, sorry, the contact is still linked to his previous job. And you're already dealing with him, but nobody's updating CRM. These simple things are easily to be automated with agents. And so they can run in the background and make sure that A, we cut administration down, 2, we make the tool CRM more valuable, and 3, we're, everything gets, the AI behind it and that is going to use that data is having much better data. So the low-hanging fruit there is I think data quality and meeting support, preparing meetings, the outcomes of meetings and the follow-up of meetings. I remember when I was trained in sales so many years ago, I followed the course with my sales guys about 25 years ago, I think by now, and we were taught that after every meeting we had to send a short meeting recap in bullet points and asking the customer, did I forget something, or is there something that I captured wrongly? Now, if you follow that through, that's a lot of work if you have a lot of meetings. For that, preparing an email out of what was being discussed that was recorded in a meeting, that's a good thing where, the quality of some of the tools, if, again, there is some setup that is properly done, works very well. And then we have the activity prioritization. Activity prioritization, which is churn prevention. Being predictive of a customer that might be in churn if you have a recurring revenue model. These algorithms, that way of working, that helps super, and you can easily integrate that in campaigns to be followed up with salespeople with the proper messages that are being set up for the different categories of potential churn. That is perfectly working perfect today. Yeah, not perfect, but is very helpful and has a very good ROI. And then you have, in terms of activity prioritization, to me, the one, of course, which is AxonJay, which is prioritization of which accounts to attack or to address in terms of prospection. And then you have everything that has to do with propensity to buy for cross-selling activities on your existing accounts, which is also, for a large extent, already based on your transactional data and ERP if you are, again, in a recurring business model. So that, to me, is the activity prioritization, which is the second one. And the third one, I believe, where AI is ready, is behavioral change support with commercial teams, because making sure that when they've been trained, they don't fall back into their old behavior or fighting the forgetting curve. That, after training a couple of weeks, we already lost more than 70% of what we've been trained on. For these type of topics, AI, and for coaching, AI has very good reputation that is building. But again, the setup, how it's being used, how it's been introduced in the community is way more important than the tooling. And I'm afraid that in a lot of cases today, we see a lot of tooling spread around and people taking all kinds of subscriptions on tooling. But that's not the way forward, I believe. It needs to be set up in a proper way. Like for AxonJay, if your segmentation, if you don't know who's buying what for which reason, then you don't know what to look for in the context of a company. So we will need to think a bit more in operationalizing our go-to-markets to make it. And again, and that's my last point, which is an advantage, I believe, of platforms like AxonJay, is in the older days, and older days I'm only looking as JP said 2 years ago, we had to do a big project on go-to-market optimization and operationalization, and it was a big project to do. Now you can do that on the fly, because we can say, hey, what is our most attractive pocket of growth where we want to attract more customers? Okay, well, let's build that segment, operationalize it with a platform, get the feedback immediately of the market, start tweaking it, because it will take some time until it works. So start tweaking it and you learn along the way. And then in the background, you can deploy your go-to-market operationalization step by step, instead of having massive change projects where people are, taking out of their context. So it's almost on-the-job improvement that you can do with that new technology. So yes, as you feel, I'm very excited of what we have been able to test and see around last couple of years.
Yeah, very, very good points, Pascal. The thing is that currently with hybrid AI, you can go into this behavioral prediction. And of course, this is an utterly moving target. The behavior is different tomorrow than it will be today, because the market is purely changing. And the market, because of the economy today, is getting more and more volatile. So this is a cycle that is turning faster and faster. But now we have technology that can help you with that. So, and it's the same as you see with churn, risk, etc. It's also behavioral, like situation of your customer, of your prospect, of your whatever, and of your supplier, etc. So you'll need in the future to make the differentiation between you and your competition is to be building with tools like we have, so that you can focus on what you're doing, because it's such a moving target. And people are not willing to listen anymore, just, pardon my English, with you spraying and talking bullshit. You need to be spot on at the right moment with the right content. And this is what we need to try to do. And in the past, you need to go, like Pascal said, through consultancy, build up, and cost a lot of money. Today with platforms, there's a lot of standardized already, but you need to watch out. If you only go for, like the outreach, you start praying. And do you want to do that? It will have it will have a counter effect on your reputation as well. So you need to watch out how you still need some consultancy around, we think, but it's much more tangible, and the go-to-market is quite quicker, faster, and more relevant. So that's the advantage of this hybrid AI that is evolving today in the market. So yeah.
Yeah, I would even say consultancy the level of consultancy you needed is fairly limited, JP, as I consider. I mean, what we say at Perpetos is what we need is just-in-time implementation support, which is different than having the analysis of the as-is and documenting the to-be and making blueprints and using waterfall project management to bring it from the boardroom to the floor. It's, to me, it's like, decide on your, put out your beacons in your strategy and then go straight to the floor and build it up, and use the tools in a proper way to get faster feedback from the market. The churn that you just talked about is a good example. How many algorithms have we floating around? Or churn prediction today is algorithms purely based on transactional data. But if that company, or even sometimes a vertical that you're selling to, is having difficulty economically and is going like 15% lower revenue in that market today, and you're selling into it, then that, your revenue is dropping into that market is logical. But your ERP system will say, whoa, I see 19 things here, 19 elements, and if I bring them together, whoa, that customer is probably in its way on moving to another supplier. And it's just, and you don't take the external context into account. So that's, I believe, again, where you see it's the external content and the internal content that brings you better quality data.
Totally agree. So a lot of people are saying, like the data, because of AI, the data becomes obsolete. No, that's not true. The data is as important as before, but the type of data is getting different. So where before we have companies like Colibra that are Belgian unicorns that are working only on the master data. So that's the company data. And cleaning up your master data is a ongoing thing. And in 10 years, you will be still cleaning your master data. But like building your business only on your master data is today a totally wrong decision, because you have so much volatility in the market. You need to have the other signals and the other data that is coming in as well, because this makes a difference between you and your competition. So, and even if you talk about churn, risk, like net new, golden moments, whatever you want to talk about, this is playing a role. Because if you want to predict churn, like you said, purely on your master data, I'm not saying it's going to be wrong. It's just going to be too late, not complete, like obsolete when you start contacting them. So, and that's the thing. And that's, now you have the tools that can incorporate your feedback, because you know your business the best. So as a salesperson, you know your business the best. So, and tomorrow that might change. So you need to be able to give feedback in a platform so the machine can help you, and not, like the whole vertical, for instance. So
Yeah. And so the one tricky part, I believe, next to having a good, operationalized go-to-market, or at least already have it ready for those things that you will launch with your hybrid AI solution, is having a sales methodology, is having a commercial methodology, not a sales methodology, but a commercial methodology that is the same methodology that is used, by the support team, by the sales team, by the marketing team. Because if you don't have a methodology behind it, we said it's team selling. Everybody has experience now, has interactions with the customer. If there is not a one way of working behind it, then what JP was saying, having also the right message at the right time, without a commercial methodology behind it, there is no way to steer and coach people, and to making sure that you orchestrate the internal and external stakeholders to just create that just-in-time right message at the right time. So the name of the game, to me, is no longer automation, but is orchestration of internal and external stakeholders, and being there at the right time. To me, that's the big challenge for the next 5 to 10 years. And of course, is automation. Am I saying that we don't need to automate? Of course not. But not automate like JP was saying with his inbox, which is from my end the same. I'm fed up with all these messages from the 15-minute meeting they want, and how they can help me, and cut the crap. But doing it in a way that it is orchestrated just in time, that's our biggest challenge. And what we can automate in doing so, we need to automate. But it's not about the automation. It's not about, making people more productive by automation. No, it's making the human side more valuable by supporting them. And like JP was saying, create a superhuman. I don't know, JP, if you know it, but if you know that book, but The Second Machine Age, I found it to be a fantastic book where it's saying, the first wave, the first machine age was the steam machine, where what we were doing was leveraging on human, muscle. And today we are starting to live in the second machine age, where we're now not leveraging on muscle, but we're leveraging on our brain. And I think from that perspective, it's very exciting times of what we can do. But again, it is to leverage our brain. It's not to automate and to replace what we're doing.
Exactly. I totally agree with that. To put you on that line, the next revolution will be about your heart. So, and that's what I said. It's about sales is still a human business. Mm-hmm. Let the brain also be facilitated and empowered by machines, and that will happen. And we can't stop that. I always say that it's like a raindrop on a window, and then when it rains, it's physics. It will always go down. It might, so you can't stop it. So if you're not doing it, your neighbor is doing it, and it will take the way around. So it's taking the path of the least resistance. So it will come. You can't stop it. It's the same when the internet came. You can't stop it. So an AI will not be stoppable. So in business. So that means also, but it's still a people business. So you still need to, like you described, it's going to be hybrid AI. It's not going to be one AI, because if you're taking one AI, one of the types of AI, you will be bombarded with X, Y, Z. You'll be automated with A, B, C, etc., etc. It's about finding out how you do business the best to make you superhumans and let the machine help you. So we are saying you need to predict a company behavior, and the behavior is changing all the time. And in behavior, you can see which signals it emits, that company. It's the same in nature. When you observe nature, you see what the signals are. And you need to interpret that. You need to validate that. You need to give feedback on that, because he might give another behavior tomorrow. And that's, like how the machine needs to evolve. And that's how you'll be much smarter, and you're in that brain revolution. You'll be much smarter in doing sales, churn, whatever, market outreach, etc.
Yeah.
JP, there is a question to explain clearly what hybrid AI is, please.
Yes. So hybrid AI is basically putting all known models together. So you have generative AI. This is about contents, IDs, words. It's got nothing to do with decisions. You have predictive AI. This is forecasting, but it needs, like I said, master data, and it's mostly based on master data. So it works with that. That's why companies like Libra are super good in that. You have assistive AI, tasks helpers, but they need instruction. So you can see it as an interactive read to manual. So you can work with that. You can ask them questions, even through voice and whatever. You have conversational AI, chat interfaces. They take no decisions. So you just have a conversation. And you have agentic AI, which executes tasks, but very narrow tasks. So you need to prompt them very well. So AI is not a single technology. It's a collective of different engines with all their strengths. So, and the question is not which AI that you want to use, but when do we use which one? So it's not which, it's when do you use which one? Because you need them all in order to have valuable business. So yeah. So that's a little, like this is a new movement in AI. You see that also in all the Gartner curves as well. So we're getting into the hype, and then it goes down because the results are not. And the best example is, have a look at Lovable AI. They raised massive amount of money. They raised also, or they had a massive amount of ARR, annual recurrent revenue. And I'm not going to judge about it. Just try it yourself and you see how it works. So this is also something you need to watch out for.
JP, I would like to also jump on the collaboration of a human using the AI. Because AI, and especially when it comes to machine learning and predictive AI, sometimes it can be a bit of a black box. The AI is suggesting something to the human, like this is the next proper action, but there's no like transparency behind it because it does like all this neurology, whatever. So how important is it to be transparent?
So for me, it's super important. Personally, in the past, when I was a student, one of the first internet startups, and I used to be the founder of, I was the first president to privatize DNS.be, and we built on that .eu. I was the first president of .eu, and we launched the Privacy Commission. So for me, that's super important. So for me, it's very sensitive. So in order to give, because I truly believe that it's the business owner or the business decision taker that can take the best decision for its business, also because of this volatility. So he needs to give feedback, good, bad, but he needs to know how to give feedback. How can he give feedback if he doesn't know what the machine is preparing for him? So the machine needs to be fully transparent. If he detects a signal or a cocktail of signals, because we all know, there's the famous Flemish expression, it's not one swallow that makes spring. So it's important. It's always a cocktail of signals. He needs to know where this is coming from. Oh, that was the source in full transparency. Oh, this is the article the machine discovered. Oh, it's coming there from LinkedIn. Or that was the product campaign on TikTok. Or this was this. Or this is coming from the website of the company. Because it's the business decision taker that needs to give feedback. So, and that is this transparency. And today you see also in consultancy, you see that a lot. They delivering results, and you don't know how they made those results. It's a blank box. We are the total opposite of black box AI, because it's business, and you know your business best, not us. And that's why we need to work together.
Yeah, which brings me back, JP, to the behavioral support. Okay, because Dylan is rightfully talking about the black box. Okay, so the black box. I can give you the example. We were working in implementing a propensity to buy implementation for activating cross-selling with one of our customers. And you really had salespeople saying, I won't follow up on what the machine is saying because I already spoke about this and that to the customer, and he clearly indicated he wasn't interested. So, the technology isn't working. And that was a black box, by the way. And so we started, but again, that's some time ago already, that example that I'm giving, it's not a recent one. And then we started to educate them on how the machine came to that conclusion, okay? And that eased up a bit, but it still wasn't the right thing, because you still have that conviction of people that is overriding, right? There are several psychological triggers with humans that prevent us to take action where the answer is right in our face and still we're neglecting it. And so that's where I believe that combined with that transparency, we also need in the moment steering and coaching of people so that we can help them create second nature behavior that is also not about being right or wrong, but about doing something, seeing the outcome, learning something about it and improving it, and getting into a mindset of continuous improvement, which is in our Christian upbringing of black and white and good and wrong, is very difficult. But, moving into something is not good or bad, it is what can we learn from it, and what is the conclusion that I will do different. So that cultural movement in companies to just do it and learn and improve is also, I think, something which is going to be needed more than ever in companies. And that, again, is not by having your one-on-ones. Also, the way managers are steering and coaching will much more be steering and coaching in the moment. Again, also supported with AI, that is giving them certain predictive things of where people need support, instead of the business reviews and the weekly one-to-ones, which is a nuisance, of course, because it's, again, out of context and based on the perception of the two individuals being in that meeting. So again, there's a context which is enriching and is supporting again more the hybrid move and making sure that we create an ecosystem for productivity, for good results, for being more relevant to our customers. Because at the end, the one paying our bills is the customer.
I also want to make a bridge towards adoption, because I know also you, Pascal, you have a lot of work around CRM adoption, and I'm wondering if there is like any parallel that we can trace that works very well on CRM, which is like a pain in the butt. We all know about it, like having the sales team consistently use it as a tool also in sales, not just as an admin tool, but as a growth accelerator tool. What are maybe learning that we can take from that towards adoption of AI, making sure that the team actually uses the tool that we are giving them?
Make it relevant in the moment. And that's, by the way, how we do it in CRM. How do we get, Dylan, our people that involve us into their CRM? How are we able to increase heavily the adoption and the quality of the data? Because we change the way CRM is being used by the users so that it gives them relevant information in each of the moments where they are going to do something. Okay. And not being a database which is giving entities and screens, and for reports you go there, and for customers you click this, and for the situation with the customer ticketing cases you go there. But bring all that information together and bringing decision ready data visualized in the moment is what CRM should be able to do. And then CRM becomes an accelerator. That's what we have been doing for quite some years with our customers. And we see that with the same approach, if you put that AI layer onto it in a similar way, there is very little resistance to use. Okay, they might see that it's not there yet, that it takes some time to get the quality, true, but they immediately see the relevance. And so we're creating a willingness for lower quality at the beginning, because they immediately see the value in the situation where it is going to help them to have better results. And so if you create that connection with just in time, I'm not too worried about resistance of change to people. And, my teams are 50 years plus old. They won't be able to use it. Actually, it's easier to use than the traditional IT systems from before. So if introduced properly with just-in-time value adding as a starting point and not automation again, it is how can I bring value to my user base? I haven't seen that much resistance.
Agreed. We see that with our customers as well, that are using CRMs. The resistance is less because you work in an intended way, and it's also, it has generative AI embedded where you're just prompting, and everybody's using Lusha, ChatGPT, etc., is used to that way of using a platform. So you have so the threshold is much lower. And of course, when the machine is saying, oh, you need to contact those ones and you need to contact those ones now, it's also much more stimulating because your results are getting better, so you're more motivated to use it. And on top of that, we have, for instance, a golden buzzer button in our platform, based on America's Got Talent, Simon Cole's golden buzzer. If you make a new customer, you hit the golden buzzer, it immediately goes for lookalikes. This is really stimulating. You'll see also in the next version, like top of the pops in the past, oh, this is your fast growing prospect that is coming in. Oh, look out, this one is growing the last week very fast. And your churn prediction, look out. So you see, you can start making it much more interactive. And we all know the more interactive, the more people are wanting to use it. So it's all about that. But you need to do it in a smart way. You don't need to push a lot of data again to all the people all the time. Our brain is not made for that. So we don't like to do that. So we like to have human contact with the right message at the right moment. I will keep on repeating that. And that's the thing that we like to do.
So what I'm hearing is like, don't just give AI to the team with hope that it works. It must be relevant in the moment. From your experience, JP, like, do you notice certain friction when it comes to people actually using the AI, and
Of
if so, how
course,
can it
of
be
course.
addressed somehow?
Yes, of course. And I agree with Pascal. Sometimes it's not the younger generation, but it's people that are used to work in a certain way that are afraid of something new, and you need to go out of your comfort zone, or you're not evolving, of course. So you see that a lot. They're afraid. It's like I said with the raindrop on the window. I mean, it will come anyway if you want it or not, and that's why also governments are putting more rules, doing more that. They're all afraid because they cannot handle this new technology, and it's coming very fast, and you don't know even half what the impact is today. And this is making people afraid. I don't know why, I don't know how, I don't know, etc. Yes, it's logic that people are a bit afraid of it, but that's what we need to, you really need to embrace it, because you really need to see the benefits of it, because your neighbor who will be using it will be going twice as fast as you. So it's a choice you're making. I mean, and I understand why people are a bit resistant sometimes, but it's for the better. So yeah.
And so I'm also just curious about maybe because I'm imagining, JP, that you have seen many clients already implementing the platform. And so if you would have to, I mean, what I'm trying to assess is also when is someone most ready to actually go full on for it. And so I don't know if you look at all the customer references that you currently have, where do you see like high adoption, but also high value coming out of the implementation versus low, and how can people actually try to go more toward this readiness position?
Yeah, people always say, "Oh, this is only for big companies, etc., etc." Well, the opposite is true. Of course, it's easier for big companies. That's what we think. But smaller companies, mid-sized companies, smaller companies are having much more value out of it, because they can work much more in real time. So where the momentum makes it different to approach your prospect, to approach your customer, etc., it's about momentum. So, and of course the right message, etc., etc. But it's about this momentum, and this is where we saw once they could feel that the adoption was virtually immediately, because it really helped them to raise the quality of their service, the number of order entries, etc., etc. So this is where it really is different, and sometimes, and it's also a misunderstanding. You don't need thousands of signals on a company to have a prediction, because sometimes a company is during 2 weeks not giving any signals. This is also reality. Not everybody is continuously active, but when it's active, you need to be on top of it, and that's the thing. Knowing that is very important.
Yeah, I would say, JP, would you agree with me that it's not that important what your company is about? It's more in which market are you operating. I'm not sure, but I would guess it's hence almost a question to you from my end, JP. If people are selling into an extremely conservative market with low presence of their audience on the internet, then of course I suppose that AI to some extent is also too blind to really be valuable. Would that be a fair point?
That's what we thought in the beginning as well. If there's not enough data, enough signals, the machine cannot make something. But then all of a sudden, we saw some of our customers, not with all of our customers, we saw that, okay, maybe it detected only 2 signals, but those 2 signals were really relevant because the market was not really active. And then the signals that we detected were more impactful. But I think that depends on industry by industry as well, and geographicals as well.
Yes, yeah.
So I can't say you're right, but I cannot say you're wrong either. So this is really depending sometimes, because we saw, for instance, we have customers that are in the construction sector, and that are really, like predicting which companies will need construction change. And you said they don't give signals for that, but they're having third signals, so not direct signals, but indirect signals. So if a company is growing in employees, and they're sitting already 4 years in the same environment, in the same address, Okay, if they're growing fast or they're winning a big RFP where they will need to hire people, there might be some change there. So they're getting up in the right, and that's maybe 1 or 2 signals anymore. So you have indirect indications as well. But when you contact that customer or that prospect, then you can have a relevant discussion. Hey, I saw that you're already 4 years there. You just won a big RFP, and you can see the RFP has a value of 10 million euro and they're only doing 5 million euro turnover. I'm just saying something. So it will have a big impact on that company. So you see, it's putting that also in perspective, and also to respond again on Dylan's question, that's why the transparency is also important, that you know why. So
yeah. But I would say what I truly hope, by the way, is going to help us with that hybrid AI is allowing and helping our salespeople to be in touch with their audience earlier in buying cycles. Because we've been talking for years now that customers don't want to see and don't meet with salespeople anymore. And then, of course, there are our data shows 2 clear indicators of salespeople having difficulty meeting up with their customers. One is the order takers and the talking brochures type of sales guys, because I don't need a talking brochure sales guy. I need someone that goes into dialogue with me to help me improve my business. Okay. So of course those salespeople have, so that has nothing to do with the buyer has changed. No, it is, there's more information around. So the value of the sales guy is becoming, the value for that the sales guy need to give is different. The second one is, if you're used to only qualify your accounts based on, things like bond, and if there isn't budget released, and the date is then I drop the lead because the lead is not interesting enough for me. That means that you're always coming in late cycle in your buying cycles, and then of course you have too little information, and you are competing with someone that influenced the account already. So we know that if you change your sales team to be interacting with accounts in the early stages of buying cycles, when they are not yet fixed-minded on what they are going to buy, we see that there is no issue to beef up the productivity, and they are more open-minded to be influenced on new things or better things that with your offering you can bring. So I'm hoping, and unfortunately, we as a company don't have enough data yet from hybrid AI installations to have an opinion on it. But I truly hope that hybrid AI will help salespeople to get into buying cycles much earlier, where then with the right messaging and with the right things, we can improve their relevance, and they can influence entire buying groups instead of selling through sponsors that we had to do in the older days. So to me, that's really, that's almost a hope that I express in this session here in this talk show. Is I hope that is a true value that we're all working towards, because if we do that, then both the seller and companies will have better results, but we will help customers much more in that world where even what they find of information, and they're all saying people are better informed. I'm saying no. Buyers aren't better informed. They are more informed, and now they are hesitant because they get conflicting information on the internet. And so salespeople that can help move people towards what information is relevant, and almost being a librarian to some extent to move through that complexity, is a huge value add that companies can bring into buying groups. But they can only do that if they're early into buying cycles engagement. And so that is truly my hope, that is how humans will help humans more, instead of the conflicting model of you are a vendor and or a supplier and I'm the customer. That whole confrontational model, I hope that will disappear, and that hybrid AI will truly help us to become more human in our interactions in selling and doing transactions.
Exactly. No, you're with me. You're preaching against the choir, as they say in English. I really think that. I also think it's about trust building, and you can only build trust as a salesperson when you have the correct information at the right time, and where you can be helped by a machine because you have more and more data. And we all know that our customers and our prospects are going online as well. They ask questions to ChatGPT. They do this and they do that, but it's not always the right information at the right moment. So this you really need as a salesperson to give help to your prospects and your customers about that. So, and it's about trust building. So you need the help of machines in order to be able to do so. So it's more about your product knowledge as well. So yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Pascal, but I think that what you were saying is also very much aligning with this move towards ABX, no?
Of course. I mean, ABX is no more than being relevant in every touch point. And if the touch point is now I'm tasting literally your product, okay, or it is support helping you, or it is, you know, a salesperson in a store, or it's a sales guy on the road, whoever has a touch point, if it's relevant, helpful, and helping people, then yes. And that's where, to me, ABX, that account based, and account just means, you know, people say, oh, account based is only for, you know, if you have key account management. No, account based, in my opinion, means as soon as there's more than one person influencing the decision, you have an account. And so to me, you know, in a family, an architect and a couple working together to what are they going to build, okay, that's already an account, because that's three people influencing each other on what they are going to buy from whom. And so to me, that's already an account. And so being in that market, to me, is yes, ABX is all that we discussed today in this call.
Wonderful. Gentlemen, I think we are reaching the end of this this talk show. I hope that the bokers have been eaten by now. I don't know, Pascal and JP, if there's like one last message that you want to spread with the audience.
So I would say hybrid AI is arriving and it's going to be here to stay. You can choose to jump on that boat or not, but I'm pretty sure if you're not jumping on it, your competition will jump on it, and you will, you know, like you will have a harder life in business. So truly embrace it. I think that will help. I think Pascal and myself are here to help you if you want. So this is really where we can dive into it, and it can fly very quickly and very smoothly because the technology has truly evolved since the last 10 years, I would say, using the traditional tools. So be aware of that.
Yeah, to me, if you have the mindset of not automation, but the mindset of how can I support the people, the users, and make it just in time relevant in their day-to-day job, okay? Don't wait. Start immediately with these use cases. Start small, and you will see that, you will avoid a lot of resistance. So no big announcements, no big things. Start small, create raving fans, and increase the use of it. Because yes, for the right cases, the technology is more than mature enough today to no longer think of it as something for tomorrow. It is today.
Pascal, JP, thank you. And of course, thank you for everybody attending. And I wish you a great rest of your day.
For Tina making sure that all of us were here today and everything was organized properly. Thank you, Tina and JP. Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.